It's time for what America really needs. Faith, family, fitness, freedom. From the home of Pikes Peak, here are your hosts Jason Lupo and Aaron Lujan.
This is Faith, Family, Fitness, Freedom on 100.7 The Word. I'm Jason Lupo, sitting here with my co-host Aaron Lujan.
Hello.
And our very special guest, Adriana Cuva, candidate for Senate District 12 here in Colorado Springs, El Paso County. How are you doing today, Adriana?
Hi, Jason. Good to be here.
So, we have the elections coming up on June 25th.
Boom, boom, boom.
Make sure you get your ballots in by 7 p.m. if you're going to drop them in a box. Or, as we always say on this show, we recommend that you vote in person. Do your patriotic duty. But regardless of how you choose to vote, get out, vote, because your voice matters, especially if you are going to be voting for any of the great candidates here in El Paso County.
Yes.
So, let's start with the basic question of why are you running?
So I'm running because I feel that we need to get back to representative government. I feel that some elected officials get into office, but they forget about the people that actually voted for them. And so as I've been going door to door, meeting people, they're actually very surprised that a candidate that's running is at their door. It's been very refreshing to meet many of my constituents face to face.
Yeah. So, I think as more and more money pours into these races, the politicians that are in it for pure political gain to gallivant around their status are simply going to make decisions based on what the dark money, what the PAC money is wanting them to do, as opposed to serving the people of El Paso County. Are you seeing a lot of this kind of dark money, PAC money flowing into the race, developers, any special interest groups?
I have. I think it's in your race.
Well, there's plenty of dark money in El Paso County, plenty of dark money in my race, but I know that it's throughout the Colorado Springs area, El Paso County, and the state. It's been very fluent in the amount of money that's poured into these races over the last 10, 12, 20 years. And it's kind of directing what's happening up at the state level.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to ask a question from a political novice. I think I speak for a lot of people that are mesmerized by national politics. And unfortunately, I don't know if you would agree with this, but there's a subset of people that just don't pay attention to local races, local politics. And so could you just explain to me your district? What is your responsibility as a congressional representative?
State.
I apologize. State. There you go. Case in point example as a state representative.
So my district is quite, it's quite diverse. It starts in Green Mountain Falls to Manitou, Old Colorado, the entire southwest area wraps around Fort Carson, Security, Whitefield, Fountain, and then the center of town, right around Colorado College, Memorial Park, hospital. So it's quite diverse. The reason why I'm running is because I love my community. As a military wife, and living here in the past, in 2006 to 2008, my husband deployed quite a bit, and I had to attend many service members' funerals on Fort Carson. I think our soldiers, our veterans, our service members have given so much for our freedoms. Mm-hmm. And that's why I decided to step up, because I want to represent them. Nobody else but the people that actually are in my community, my constituents. I think it's important that we just get back to representative government the way our founding fathers set our country upon.
So you're running for District 20 state legislature. You're basically representing a huge area. I would think it's diverse. What is the problem right now?
So from Old Colorado down to Security, it's taxes, high taxes, the cost of living,
yes. Crime.
Crime is also a major issue, and so is homelessness. A lot of people are very concerned about all these issues. How can I represent them? So I think it's important that as I've met a lot of the constituents in my area, I find out what their fields are also, because as we have bills that come down or that we put together, we can have input from my local community and ask them, if this bill comes through, can I have your input on this? And not only that, but we also need conservatives in these bills to testify when they're coming through committee. As conservatives, I've listened to several bills up at the State House, and the Democrats have hours of testimony, and it's unfortunate that the conservatives we really lack that. And so I think it's important that we build that community in order to have more representation and their voice during these bills that we're trying to pass for their benefit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that it's really important that we have real people in office. Not those that have been groomed for positions, not those that are just going from one political position to the next political position, the next political position, because they lose touch with their community. And especially when we have these small outskirt communities in El Paso County where it's not Colorado Springs, right? There's issues that are affecting certain areas of the county that don't hit the larger Colorado Springs. And what everybody is worried about, regardless if you're on either side of the aisle, the Republican side, the Democrat side, it doesn't matter. Regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, the focus becomes on the biggest cities, the biggest, most populous areas. And in the process where we're focused on Boulder, Denver, Fort Collins, Colorado Springs, and we forget about the fountains, the monuments, the Black Forest, the Paytons, the Elberts, the Callahans. We forget about all these small areas. And then we lose touch with the people that are out there. I was talking to a dairy farmer, and he was saying how there's a push to legalize raw milk, the sale of raw milk, which the average person, we would go, this seems like a great idea. All of us health freaks, we want the raw milk.
Choice. But
what he said was, if they do that, that raw milk will actually go away in Colorado because it's going to be so heavily, there's going to be so much legislation and so much requirements for dairy farmers that are currently doing milk shares that they won't be able to meet all of the red tape that the health departments are going to put in place. And at the end of the day, we're going to end up with no raw milk in this state because they won't be able to afford to meet these red tape standards, all of this, nonsense and these regulations that are going to come down the pipeline as a part of it. And so, sometimes I think we fail to see the end result because we're looking at what might be a good thing. And if we're not going back and we're not talking to the constituents and the constituents aren't testifying and they're not standing up, then we end up making choices that end up hurting the greater populace. We're going to take a brief time out. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation with State Senate District 12 candidate Adriana Cuva, our very special guest. Hang with us for 30 seconds.
Full Armor Sports Teams has a new facility for after-school youth programs. It's located at 2380 Montebello near North Academy and Union with 2 pools for swim lessons and swim teams, a weight room for powerlifting, conditioning, and more. Full Armor Sports Teams is a Christ-centered and family-oriented organization bringing the youth of Colorado Springs together. For more info on after-school and homeschool programs, go to fullarmorsportsteams.com or call 719-629-SWIM.
Welcome back to Faith, Family, Fitness, Freedom on 100.7 The Word. I'm Jason Lupo with my co-host Aaron Lujan and our very special guest, State Senate District 12 candidate Adriana Cuva. I'm going to pass the mic off to Aaron right now, who's got a question.
Adriana, I am watching Unfettered Illegal Immigration. I was actually at the gym today and I looked up at the TV and I'm seeing hundreds of people from Venezuela, Central America, China, what the Border Patrol now, what they call OTM other than Mexican, which is concerning because this is showing that there's a concerted effort, more than likely on the side of the federal government, to bring in thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people that are basically not being vetted, and they're an hour from here in Denver. And immediately I thought, wow, they're an hour away. What's going to stop them from coming here, and who are they? I think that there's threats of terrorism. I'm all for legal immigration. My wife was born in Mexico, lived there for 22 years. She followed the legal pathway because she does things the right way. And so this is not, again, this always has to be prefaced. This is not about race, because enemies or our enemies and those who are for unfettered immigration always want to make it a race issue. So now that we got that out of the way, my question to you, Adriana, is what could you do as a state representative to protect our communities from the federal government bringing in tens of thousands of unfettered illegal immigrants into Denver and around our borders?
I believe that the Republicans at the state house or at the House district up in Denver, they did put out a notice that they are not for any sanctuary cities or open borders. I feel the same. As an immigrant myself from Ecuador, I came here when I was 8 years old, and I do have a resident alien card with my photo when I was 8 years old. And my mom had to wait 5 years to become a legalized citizen. And so I think you have to go through the legal process. America is great. I think as a child, when I came to America, the fact that there was always the rule of law was amazing to me, because from a third world country, you're very concerned about kidnappings and crime and all of that. So I thought America is wonderful. And I see, and it's unfortunate what I see that's going on here in our country. Mm-hmm. I think we do need a vetting process. Colorado Springs, we cannot make it a sanctuary city. We have to definitely push back against that. I will speak up against anything that we open up our state to illegal immigration here. I think we can look into possibly changing some laws where if there's families that are looking to stay here and are going to work here, yes. So we do need to possibly look into some laws into that. But the fact that we just have thousands of people pouring in, especially when I-25 and I-70 are a huge, not just drug highways, but they're also sex trafficking. Mm-hmm. So I don't know I'm concerned as a mom, and I have college kids, and what the effects of illegal immigration is doing to our state.
So, and I actually had somebody bring this up to me the other day, and I think it's very interesting, and it's something that I probably didn't necessarily piece together in my own head. But there's a lot of talk on election integrity, and there's a lot of debate on election integrity, and it's become a very hot topic and divisive issue. But I'm going to put a spin on it right now. I'm going to put a different spin on it, because I want you to think back about apportionment or how we gerrymander in this state and across the country, which means how we apportion seats up at the House. And the way that it works is it goes off of what would be the 2020 census data. Now, if you recall, there was not a question on the 2020 census data that asked whether or not somebody that's residing in a specific property is here legally, whether they're a citizen. It just counts the amount of people. Well, that data is used to apportion seats in the state Senate, in the state House, and also in congressional districts across the country. And so what happens is now we're counting illegal immigrants in these large cities as part of the population, and we're drawing maps based off of it. And this apportionment has become a huge problem. And so even if you want to say, you know what, this whole Dominion argument, whatever, we don't want to talk about it, fine. But there is an election integrity issue because there is voter fraud in a greater sense up all the way back to our census data and how we apportion seats. And so now there is a vested interest in bringing in busloads of immigrants so that they increase the population, so that instead of gaining, one seat in Denver, now they have 3 seats in the same area because of this drastic change in population. And we're going to see it again in the 2030 census data. And it's going to be even worse because now we have these states that are funneling them in. It is a way to maintain the amount of Democrat-controlled seats by increasing the immigration. So I think what we need to do up in the state House, up in the state Senate, and they're working on it in Congress, is we need to say, listen, we need to apportion our state seats off of the amount of citizen-registered voters in our state, not off the census data. So I think we need to put a bill forward to change and adjust how we apportion seats. And I think if we do that, we're going to solve a lot of these issues. And we take away the incentive to bring in these illegal immigrants. Because right now, the only incentive to bring them in is to maintain control of the federal and the state government.
Adriana, is that something that would be attributed to your powers?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And how would you address that? Would you agree with Jason's premise and take action?
Absolutely. I think the more that we work together in the House and at the Senate, we can get more things done if we come together. And if we have more of our constituents also backing that and testifying on those bills, hopefully we can get those bills passed through so we can have a safer Colorado.
One of the last questions I want to ask you as we're winding things down is you've met with a number of people in your community, in your district. You've heard their hearts. What is top of mind in your community right now?
Top is definitely affordability. And it's, you would be amazed. It's not just in Security, Fountain, Whitefield, and Old Colorado. It's also the multi-million-dollar homes behind the Broadmoor. Some of their kids are graduating college in the next couple of years, in the next year or two. One of my constituents said, and they're not planning on returning to Colorado because it's just too expensive.
Wow.
All right, we're going to take a brief time out. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation with State Senate District 12 candidate Adriana Cuva. Hang with us for 30 seconds.
Thanks for listening to Faith Family Fitness, a presentation of Full Armor sports teams. Teamwork is at the core of any successful organization. At Full Armor Sports, led by national champion coach Jason Lupo, a Christ-centered approach to sports fundamentals and fitness has earned his company the respect of athletes and their parents. Full Armor Sports is committed to helping youth in our community experience growth through sports and to strive for improvement and excellence. Further, youth compete as individuals coming together with a sense of teamwork, camaraderie, and support for one another. At Full Armor Sports, the reality is achievements, failures, wins, and losses eventually fade away. But the bonds team members form through competition evolve into relationships lasting forever. Learn more at fullarmorsports.com.
Welcome back to Faith, Family, Fitness, Freedom on 100.7 The Word. I'm Jason Lupo with my co-host Aaron Lujan and our very, very, very special guest, State Senate District 12 candidate Adriana Cuva. Adriana, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Jason.
So, education has become a very hot topic. We've seen drastic changes in the education landscape. We have the addition of what started with Common Core, which is absolutely just utterly absurd. And then came CRT. And then came the LGBTQ agenda. Then CRT changed to something else. And then we saw this drastic shift of charter schools popping up everywhere, hybrid schools popping up everywhere. Then we had the COVID pandemic and everybody switched to online schools. Then they went back to their respective schools sometimes, or they went to the homeschool realm, which the homeschool group is growing astronomically. And I think that the homeschool population growing is really angering the education people because all of a sudden, money's not popping in the school district when you remove your kids. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not the same case if you enroll your kids in anything having to do with the district. So if you actually want to defund the school district, get out of their homeschool programs. I'm dead serious. You're giving them money. If you took your kids out because you don't believe in what the school systems are doing, and then you put them back in a co-op that's hosted by the school district, you're still putting money in the school district's pocket. So think about that.
Good point.
There's plenty of great organizations that run co-ops, things like that. Yes, it may cost a little bit of money, but you're defunding the school districts and you're removing the wokeness out of these schools. So anyways, all of that to say, my really long intro, to say what is your feeling on the current educational landscape? What would you do in the state Senate to change the educational landscape?
I think we need to focus on just math, reading, science, and stop pushing all these liberal agendas on our kids. I keep hearing from a couple of parents that I have spoken to, they just want, let's just get back to classical education. Because we really need to, I believe that we are 50 something, ranked 50 something in the world. And it's very sad that we can't just concentrate on the education of our children. We homeschooled for, I believe, was it 6 years? I think we homeschooled for 6 years while we lived overseas, and we were able to travel all over the world. But when we did have our kids just before that in German school, they were just being taught the basics to read, write, arithmetic. And so they weren't pushing any agendas. It was just to let them be able to, it was just basic education so they can succeed in life. And this is not what they're pushing right now is definitely, I think, a detriment to our children. Instead of coming out and graduating from high school with a great educational background, there is definitely, I think we're harming our kids by not just focusing on just top education and making sure that.
Is there any hope to work with Democrat legislators at the Senate House? Or is this just a matter of, I know I'm naive, forgive me. I'm just a little baby. But the only pathway I see is just filling up the House with Republicans. Is that essentially the pathway to victory? Or is there any hope of getting different kinds of Democrats or working with them at any capacity?
You know, I'm going to answer this question because I'm very passionate about this, and it irritates the nonsense out of me.
Why?
Are you mad at me, Jason?
No.
Okay, good.
I love you, Aaron.
All right, I love you too, brother.
You know, but it's June. So
okay, yes, yeah.
In a brotherly love way.
If we were in the studio, it's definitely June.
Yes. Yes, there we go. Anyways, the Dems have a solid super majority up in the House and the Senate. They can pass whatever the heck they want. They don't need the Republicans' help, and the Republicans are helping them anyways. That's absolutely absurd. They're not getting anything done. They say that they're trying to negotiate, cross the aisle, whatever. It's all a ton of nonsense, in my 100% belief. Now, here is how we gain back some element of control, even if it means we don't flip seats. Every negotiation revolves around one term, and it's called leverage. Leverage is what is required in a negotiation. Right now, the Republicans have no leverage because they can't do anything. The Dems don't have to come to the table because there's no leverage. If we can't get leverage by the seats, we gain leverage by the constituents showing up to testify. Because when you show up with 100 people to testify on a bill, you watch them. They postpone the testifying, they postpone the testifying, they postpone the testifying. Sometimes they just don't even bring up the bill because they don't want to sit through what is 10 hours of testimony on a bill. And if we continue to do that, we gain leverage back because the people are pissed off. They're going to show that they're pissed off, and we gain back leverage that way. And that's how we win up at the state House and the state Senate.
So in essence, we need Republicans in the House bringing hundreds of people to testify that are willing to bring people to testify as the pathway to victory.
Yeah, I truly think it has to do with leverage. I think that's how we gain the leverage back if we're not going to flip seats.
I have to agree with you, Jason. I testified on one of the foster parental bills, and there was only 3 of us, including a woman from Focus on the Family. And then the opposition had, I think it was about 3 to 4 hours of testimony.
Yeah, and the Dems are doing great. We just got to do a better job. We got to look at their tactics, and we got to do the same thing and do it better. That's how you win. That's how you win. It's not just about flipping seats. It is about flipping seats. It is about voting, but it's not just about flipping seats. And even though we have this minority, I don't think that the race is over. I don't think that we can just call it quits. I don't think that's the right move. I'm going to call that my wrap up because, you know, I just spend a lot of time ranting. So let's go to our wrap ups. Aaron, Lujan, you have about 30 seconds.
Adriana, definitely you seem like a grassroots candidate, and you've taken the time to meet with the people, which I really appreciate. You're not insulated in some power vacuum paid for by dark money. So I really appreciate you running, and I really believe that you will go into the House and shed light in a dark place. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I'm thankful for being here today. I can't tell you I know everything, but I think what's great about representative government is that you can go to your constituents, especially in those field interests and you can get their input, because that's what representative is about. If I knew everything, I would be a leader, because I know I've been asked, so what are your leadership skills? I'm not going there to be a leader. I'm going up there to be a representative for the people.
Wonderful.
That's a fresh take on on that perspective, and I do appreciate that. Thank you so much for coming on this show. If you missed any part of this conversation, faithfamilyfit.org. Look it up. We'll have a link to this interview, as well as interviews with past candidates and all of our shows on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any of your favorite podcast providers. Thank you for joining us once again, faithfamilyfit.org. Join us next Saturday at 9 a.m. for Faith, Family, Fitness, Freedom on 100.7 The Word. Thank you. Have a great day.